You know that feeling when you hear someone your age announce something big, a promotion, an engagement, a baby, a move, and your first reaction isn't happiness or jealousy. It's just silence inside. Like your brain freezes for half a second. And then later, when you're alone, it hits you. Not as panic, not as drama. Just a quiet thought you don't say out loud. I feel behind. If you've ever felt that way, not constantly, but often enough that it follows you around, this is probably going to feel uncomfortably familiar. Because people who feel behind in life don't usually look lost. They look fine, they show up, they function. They laugh at the right moments. They post occasionally. But inside, there's this constant sense that everyone else got the memo and you're still trying to figure out what the instructions were. And when society notices this, it doesn't handle it gently. You get labeled late bloomer, too picky, too slow, too thoughtful, still finding yourself. Sometimes people try to motivate you. Sometimes they pressure you. Sometimes they joke about it. But almost always, the message underneath is the same. You're not where you're supposed to be. What rarely gets said is that feeling behind is not a personality flaw, it's a pattern. And most people have no idea where it actually comes from. Because the truth is, feeling behind in life has very little to do with intelligence, ambition, or effort. It has a lot more to do with how your nervous system learned to move through the world. Psychologists have found that humans don't experience time objectively. We experience it socially. We don't ask, am I growing? We ask, am I growing at the same pace as everyone else? And your brain takes that comparison seriously. When you feel behind, your nervous system doesn't register it as a neutral thought. It reads it as a threat. Studies show that social comparison activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Being behind triggers the same systems that respond to exclusion. So when you feel behind, what you're really feeling is not failure. You're feeling a question your body keeps asking. Do I still belong? Now, here's where things get interesting. A lot of people who feel behind didn't grow up feeling safe moving fast. They grew up needing to think before acting, to read the room, to anticipate reactions, to avoid mistakes that had consequences. So their system learned something early. Pause first, move later. That turns into a life pattern. You don't jump into things easily. You don't rush decisions. You don't move just because everyone else is moving. From the outside, that looks like hesitation. From the inside, it's caution mixed with self-awareness. And in a world that rewards speed, caution gets mislabeled as delay. There's research in developmental psychology that shows this clearly. People who grew up in unpredictable or emotionally demanding environments often develop strong internal monitoring. They think deeply, they reflect, they imagine outcomes. That takes time. So their growth happens quietly, internally, long before anything changes on the outside, which creates a really specific kind of discomfort because you feel like you're changing, but no one else can see it yet. And when growth is invisible, it starts to feel imaginary. This is why people who feel behind often feel the worst when they're actually close to change. Right before something shifts, uncertainty gets louder. Your old way of being doesn't fit anymore, but the new version of you hasn't fully formed. So you're in this strange in-between state, not moving forward, not staying the same, just hovering. Behavioral scientists call this a transition phase. Your brain is updating old rules, and during updates, systems slow down. But socially, that slowdown gets interpreted as stagnation. So you start questioning yourself. Why does everything take me so long? Why don't I just know? What's wrong with me? Nothing. Nothing is wrong with you. Your system just doesn't move without meaning, and meaning takes time. Here's another thing people don't talk about. Some people measure progress externally, others measure it internally. If you're the second type, milestones don't reassure you the way they seem to reassure others. You can achieve something and still feel unsettled if it doesn't align. That's not ingratitude. That's coherence. You're not chasing boxes to check. You're chasing something that feels right. The downside is that this path is quieter. You don't get constant proof that you're on track. You don't get applause for internal shifts. You don't get deadlines for clarity. So it feels like everyone else is ahead. But here's the part that's hard to explain until you've lived it. People who move slowly tend to move from deeper places. They don't reinvent themselves every year. They don't build lives they immediately want to escape. They don't wake up one day realizing they ran fast in the wrong direction. That doesn't mean their path is better. It just means it's different. There's a trade-off. Speed gives you momentum. Depth gives you stability. And stability is invisible until you need it. So if you've been feeling behind, it might not be because you're failing to start. It might be because you've been preparing without realizing it, protecting yourself, learning yourself, building an internal foundation no one else sees. And yes, that can feel lonely because there's no clear timeline for internal readiness. But that doesn't mean it's not real. Feeling behind does not mean you are broken. It does not mean you missed your window. It does not mean you're wasting your life. It means your system values alignment over urgency. And that kind of life doesn't unfold loudly. It unfolds slowly, quietly, intentionally. There's one more piece of this that doesn't get talked about enough. People who feel behind often think the problem is time. They think, if I had started earlier, if I had moved faster, if I had figured it out sooner. But psychology suggests something else is happening. For a lot of people like you, the delay isn't about starting late. It's about starting honestly. You don't move until something feels real to you. You don't commit until it makes sense internally. You don't build a life you can't emotionally live inside. That means you spend longer in questioning phases, longer in observation, longer in uncertainty, longer in what looks like nothing happening. But internally, something very specific is forming. A sense of self that isn't borrowed, a direction that isn't copied, a life that isn't just assembled from expectations. And yes, that comes with a cost. You watch other people move faster. You watch them hit milestones earlier. You watch them seem more certain. And sometimes you wonder if you're doing life wrong. But here's the part that rarely gets acknowledged. A lot of people who move fast spend years later undoing what they rushed into. They change paths. They question choices. They feel trapped by decisions made before they understood themselves. People like you tend to do the questioning first, which means when you finally move, it's quieter, but it's more yours. That doesn't mean your life will be perfect. It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. It just means your mistakes are usually conscious ones, and that matters. Feeling behind is painful not because you're failing, but because you're aware. You notice time. You notice gaps. You notice where you are versus where you thought you'd be. Awareness can feel heavy before it feels useful. But awareness is not a dead end. It's a doorway. And if you're standing there right now, not stuck, not lost, just unsure, that doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means something is forming slowly enough to last. You are not late to your life. You're arriving carefully. And that kind of arrival doesn't announce itself. It just settles. If this felt familiar, you might want to stay here. I post videos like this regularly, quiet, honest breakdowns of things people usually feel but don't know how to explain. You can subscribe if you want more of these, more reflections, more understanding, more moments where something finally clicks.